Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another episode of FarmCon Conversations podcast. I'm Todd Leffler, along with good friend Kevin Van Trump. On today's call, we got a lot of exciting things to cover. Kevin, are you with me?
I'm here, buddy. I'm here.
Good. How we doing, brother? I don't know if you want to talk about your back. Great. I know you've been still working on it.
Oh yeah, no, my back. That's a joke. I mean,
okay.
You know, I will tell you a funny story on the back just to kick things off. So, and just so everyone know. So I had this MRI scheduled. Shit, they had it bumped out like a month. You know, I couldn't get in. They finally they sent me a pre-thing to go pay, right? They said I was going to have to pay her. And I've had Blue Cross Blue Shield, same insurance for 25 years. And it had always been great insurance. And they said, are you going to turn this into insurance? That was one of the questions on the automated, right? I said yes on the questionnaire online. They said, okay, you're going to owe $1,700 some dollars, because I never go to the doctor or anything, so I think my deductible was like $2,500. So it said you owed $1,700, and then $6,000, $6,000 and some change was going to be paid by my insurance. Okay, I said, well, that's weird, because it had this button. You could say, are you going to pay yourself, or are you going to turn it into insurance? Right? I clicked turn it into insurance, and I thought, well, shit, wonder what they charge me if I just pay myself. So I go back, I reverse back out of the program. I start very back to the beginning because it wouldn't let me do it. So I started beginning, and I went in and I hit, I'm going to pay cash. Todd, you're not going to believe this shit. It said I owed $1,400, not $1,700, and there would be no other fees involved. Now, how's that possible? How would I turn into insurance? I'm going to pay $1,700 out of my pocket, and the insurance company's going to get hit for $6,000. But if I pay cash, it was $1,400. That shit's insane. So I don't know. The whole medical thing, you know, it just gets me going. So I try to stay the hell away from those places. But no, I haven't got any resolution on that. Yeah, just getting yanked around different medical places.
But you bring up, and we've touched on this before, but dude, I mean, that is some serious issues, some serious internal regulatory, somebody's got to address. That's out of control.
Well, you and I talked about off, not on podcast last time, but you were even thinking about maybe going to catastrophic.
100%.
Catastrophic coverage and then paying cash rate. And I told you, so my heart guy is a good friend of mine. They've gone to cash. They just, you know, I'd go in there and it's like $50. And if you want to do a treadmill test, it's like $200. And Michelle's gyno, my wife's gynecologist, they went to just cash basis on a lot of all their clients. So I'm like, I think a lot of these medical places, a lot of them are switching over, and you can get a hell of a lot better, you know, and it's easy, it's simple, you pay the cash, and away you go. So I'm with you. Maybe there's a play there. Just
well, you know, Kevin, I've never. I mean, honestly, my wife and I
pay for insurance. What do you guys? So I think Michelle and I pay about I know we pay over $2,000 a month just for her and I, you know, combined, I think. And like I said, we had the same insurance for 25 years. Neither one of us ever been in the hospital for anything. Except when Michelle had babies, but you know, I've never been in the hospital overnight for shit. So, and she hasn't either. So I don't know. It's crazy, but
no, haven't been to a doctor in I don't know how many years. And I'll be honest, I'm assuming there's other people out there like me that had no idea. Honest to God, when you started telling me you could take cash, I'm like, what? I thought the system was so insurance wrapped around that, you know, everything had to go through insurance.
Well, no wonder though. Our premiums are so high; they just crush these insurance. And I don't know. Insurance companies may crush the doctors. So I don't know what's going on, but I'm just telling you, wow, what a crazy mess that all is. So, yeah, I don't know. Getting old's no fun. I definitely don't want to be tripped up in that.
No, not. We'll just let it go. Hey, did I hear Gary Lezak tell me you guys got some rain yesterday?
Oh, yeah, we had rain most of the day. You know, it's wet down here in Kansas City. We're about 60-some today. It's been 60 for the last several days, and, you know, just been warm and getting some moisture. So, no, things have been good. It's going to cool back down a little next week.
Yeah. I'm sitting out here in red flag warnings. We got severe drought going on, red flags, high winds, dry. I mean, it's dry in the popcorn part out here, and they've had some fires pop up out just west of us in Colorado.
And your farm, Todd, your farm's kind of on that Colorado-Nebraska border, right? Or is it?
I'm on the southeast portion of the Panhandle. So if you're up on the actual Panhandle, Nebraska, I'm down the southeast corner there. I can be to Colorado in 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah. I
can be to Wyoming in an hour or less. And so we're up on the table of the Platte, about 3,800 feet, sandy soil. So anyway, it's just dry and poop. Now, I did see that there is some systems coming through that Gary talked about, and my wife confirmed with the Canada weather, so we're supposed to get some snow and moisture this week. It'll be good. But the hard red wheat areas down from Texas to us, it is very dry, so we're going to definitely keep our eye on that deal. So,
well, yeah, we can right in and talk about that if you want. I mean,
yeah, I was just say let's slide on over to corn, bean, and wheat, brother, and
yeah, we'll start off with wheat. I'm long some wheat. I've been long here for a little bit of time. I was trying to buy some at a cheaper price. Decided hell with it, bought a little. I'm up pretty good in the position. Holding long wheat against some short bean and short corn positions. I'm up in the corn. I'm down in the beans. So got profits in corn and wheat markets. And like I said, I'm giving a little bit back in beans. I might even be about even. Today we were down, down decent, rallied back a little bit here. But, I think overall wheat, I think there could be a little bit of concern. I don't know if it's much. You may just get a little bit of rattling, saber rattling here to knock a few more of the shorts out of their bearish positions. You've seen the funds have been adding to their bean positions length, and they've been adding a little bit to their corn length. And maybe they want to keep the same type of mindset, so they're going to blow out of some of their short wheat positions, possibly. You had some issues in Russia, Ukraine with the extremely cold, wintry weather conditions. You had a lot of talk about some deep ice in some fields, wheat fields in Russia and through Ukraine. A lot of logistical restraints that are, keeping some of the wheat flowing out of the southern ports over in Russia. You got just extreme winter weather, so that's kind of popped a little bit of, like I said, it's knocked a few of the shorts out, I believe. And now here you're kind of sitting here in the U.S. and these damn warm temps, like you're talking, Todd. So we had a lot of warm temps. There's really not a lot of snow cover in some important areas on the crops right now. And, we get a cold snap or you get a late, late winter, early spring type of freeze. You could do some damage just because a lot of things, and I think you sent me the pic there today.
Yeah, it was in the report.
Yeah, the wheat crop's really kind of popping here and the warm temps and a little bit of moisture on some areas. And so, you get past joint stage, some of the other stage, and you get a cold snap, you could do a little bit of damage. So, like I said, I don't know if there's any real bullish story as of yet. You did, global ending stocks kind of finally stopped going higher, which was a good thing. But still, U.S. stocks are pretty burdensome. Russian wheat's going to remain cheap. Their new crop production estimates are going higher. So I'm not looking for any type of crazy move higher here in wheat. I think you may just get some short cover and get a little pop here. I'm going to look then as a producer on the producer side, maybe feather in a few sales. We catch another, 20 to 40 cent run to the upside, and that's how I'm going to play it for the wheat market going into the what I would call more of a weather market. We start to get into the March, April, May, and then you get some forecast here, and if it stays dry out where you're talking, Todd, in that hard red area, I think you could get a little movement to the upside. So I'm a little optimistic about wheat. In corn, I've been holding the short position. I'm making a little money, but as you and I talked, I've been looking for a place to reverse that and maybe get long. But I don't think I'm there yet. I think there's still some room to the downside for the corn market. We're sitting here at over 2 billion bushel carry. I don't want to repeat what we always talk about, but bottom line is, what's Brazil? So their second crop corn is about 25% planted right now. Argentine crop looks to be about where the USDA's got it estimated at. Net, though, total SAM production, South American production, combined is probably going to be record large. And so now, let me back that up. If they get cooperative weather in Brazil for the second crop, if they run into some issues, that's a whole different game. But let's just say they get and continue to have fairly cooperative weather like we've seen this first part. You're looking at a fairly sizable global crop. As you mentioned to me, we had great weekly export sales, and exports remain super strong. Ethanol has been strong. U.S. demand has been really, really, really good. But like we said, the USDA already has record demand in the forecast, and they still have us forecast at over 2.1 billion bushels in ending stock. So the bears are sitting there saying, I don't know if we can bump demand a whole lot higher. And so that leaves, if demand can't do the heavy lifting, that means the supply side is going to have to find a way to do the lifting. And that means we're going to have some production failure, either with Brazil's second crop or here in the U.S., some type of production failure. And like everybody, nobody wants to wish that on anybody or even themselves. But that's kind of what we're thinking here is if we get a drought story, comes up here in the U.S. or hits a main portion of Brazil, which doesn't look to be the case at the moment, maybe there's a chance that we pop this thing to the upside a little bit more. So I was thinking if we pressured corn down here closer to $4, or maybe even get a 3-handle in front of it, I'm going to look to go out there and buy a bunch of calls. I'm just looking at some cheap calls further out, and just see what we can do. I think.
All right, so let me interrupt because when you first started this, you mentioned that you wanted to be bullish corn, and without saying what you just said, I'm sitting there thinking, well, what freaking headline are you going to see, especially after the export numbers?
No. Okay,
but you're talking about if it drops.
Well, all I'm saying is this: the funds, like we all know, the funds tend to overdo things to the upside, but they also tend to overdo things to the downside. Right now, I don't think that's really the case. I think corn's trading at a fairly good price, considering we're over 2 billion bushel carry, considering you're going to have record stocks, record production out of South America. And, I'd say corn probably should be down closer to $4 or maybe even with a 3-handle in front of it. That's why I'm sitting here short.
Gotcha.
So I'm saying if the funds overdo it to the down, they pressure this thing, they get it down around 380, 390, $4. I mean, if we get to that point, I'm just saying, I don't know if there would be a ton of downside risk from there. So I would be looking to go out and maybe buy some options, load up on some beaten up options, and see if we couldn't catch a pop back to say 440, 450, on a drought worry, 460, somewhere in there on a drought concern. Could we get back to $5? Yeah, maybe if demand stays good, if we're able to maybe negotiate a little better policy on some of the biofuel side of things, if we're, maybe if Trump and the crew negotiate some type of bigger corn sale, there's a lot of options out there that could help us. But at the same time, just keep in mind, if we don't get a supply side weather worry, and demand may waver a touch, well, we're here we go. We're going lower. So if you start to see demand waver and some of these weekly export sales numbers start to weaken, and ethanol may runs into a couple of headwinds or something here or there, I think prices could go lower. So that's what I'm saying. I think we're sitting here at a fairly good level right now. You got decent corn for next year trading 460. So that's what I'm trying to say. This isn't any just, there's decent prices, okay prices out there at the moment to reduce some risk. This 460 area, Todd's where we took off that first, 20%. So, I think we get close. If we were to rally, say to 480 and get in that $4.80 to $5 range, I'm going to price some more new crop. And then I'll see how we play out from there. But that's where we're sitting right now in the corn market. As far as beans are concerned, I am, from a spec perspective, net short the bean market. And, we're sold out of 2025's crop for beans, and we are looking to price more new crop on a rally. So, we're sitting here, no beans trading, I don't know, anywhere from, say, 11 to 11.20 range. They've been chopping back and forth all around there. We're looking to price some more new crop Nov 26 beans, on any type of move, probably back up north of, if we could get a move to 11.50, somewhere in that area. I'm trying to think of what the high was. I think the high for the last year or over a year has been around 11, let's call it 11.30, 11.35 maybe. But that's what I'm saying. If we can make a new high, get up there somewhere closer to 11.50, somewhere between 11.40 and 11.50, I'm probably going to look to sell a little bit more, feather in a few more sales. get us up there closer to 35% price ahead of planting. So, that's kind of our call where we think things are. The bean market, where I think there's a little bit of confusion, and I'm not doing a good job writing about it either. Sometimes it's just hard to put into words. But let's say China does come through and want to purchase the additional 8 million metric tons over between now and August 31st. That's the end of the 25-26 marketing year. So they want to purchase the extra 8 million metric tons. All I'm saying, and a lot of my friends who are bearish this market, traders, professional traders, is even if China were to buy that from us, it probably wouldn't impact our balance sheet all that much, just simply because that's a kind of a, we know that we're not going to be competitive. I mean, shit, we're probably over a buck non-competitive now when you get out into April, May, type of that. So it's like if China were to do that, they're just basically throwing us a political token. And if that were to be the case, that's great and fine. But other people that we would traditionally be selling to are probably going to be sourcing their beans from Brazil, just because there's such a sizable difference in the price. And at the same time, if our prices are elevated like that because people believe our balance sheet is going to be sub 100 million bushels, which I keep hearing people toss out and out there, we're going to be 50 million bushel carry. USDA is not going to go to, I shouldn't say that. I doubt the USDA goes to a 50 million bushel carry. They're going to want to say prices will eliminate demand, meaning they're going to say prices, if we got that type of carry, prices are going to go high enough that it cuts off demand and you're not going to get to a 50 million bushel carry. You'll be somewhere in 100 plus. So I'm just saying the people that want to toss that around out there, I'd be careful in buying into that just because I believe the demand's going to go elsewhere prior to that. So I don't know. I mean, it's a tough one. I see what the bulls are saying, and I want to be bullish, trust me. But I'm sure that's going to be the case if. So, could prices go higher? Hell yeah, they can go higher. There's no question they can move higher from here. But I think, I think ultimately this thing works itself back a little bit. So that's why I said I like pricing a little bit more into a rally. I'm not going to go nuts and get way out over the tips of my skis, but I think you can get 30 to 40% price at a decent level, make a little money, price that'll make you a little bit of money ahead of planning. I like pulling the trigger on that. So, that's what we're doing in the corn market and the bean market. Staying patient, right? We think there's a little more room in wheat. So, no change really from our perspective on the marketing front, just kind of hanging in there for the moment and watching some of these weather forecasts for South America and trying to debate and figure out what is going to happen here with corn acres and bean acres for 2026. What do you think? What are you hearing out there, Todd, on this corn?
If we're cutting back corn acres, I haven't found them yet.
So you're thinking, you're saying a lot of people are still, geared up.
No, I think we're status quo. I mean, the only thing that's going to change that, in my opinion, is going to become this, the spring conditions and who gets what and stuff. I'm seeing a lot of things out there.
And it's like you and I, Todd, last week. I know you and I off call. We were talking about just from our own trading perspective. You're thinking that a lot of these peripheral areas and people that switched to corn last year, some of the dryland areas, they had such great weather and they saw such good yields in return. They're like, hell, this is awesome. Let's plant more corn. Let's plant corn again next year. And I see what you're saying. I think I'm in agreement with you. I think a lot of those people we had really good weather last year, and it may have fooled a lot of folks who flipped some acres to corn, and they're going to be in for another ride this year, aren't they? I think so.
Well, no, they will. And Texas, especially, because the last couple of years, Texas has really switched over to corn for a number of reasons. But I think they're going to be the same. And if our boy Gary's right, they're going to get there. It's going to be a tough late July and August. But
we've seen a lot of people though flipping to some corn. You've seen some.
All across.
That were.
And everyone had good.
Yeah, big potato farmers. They flipped corn acres. I know some rice. You had seen some rice. You had rice.
And that's a good point. I don't know if I said this last week, but brother, those rice guys are just beside themselves. And I put it in front of the field. I may have said, I mean, there's a lot of guys that aren't planting a sprout of rice this year, and so it'll probably go to. It ain't going to cotton, so it'll probably go. It'll be corn or beans, one of the two. But once again, you're going to add. It ain't going to be a ton, but I'm just saying.
Well, and in your, I guess I should say, and Andy this year, I mean, he had one of his worst. I know trading rice. I mean, he's beside him. So that's probably a good segue into your conversation on the USDA you wanted to talk about.
Well, I did, and on that note, so listen. This is an area that you taught me, Hunter. But I'm just going to ask, as a trader, yes, I know it's the numbers that you have to trade. It's what they produce. But man, we're seeing, they've just recently had due to their revisions from the January numbers where they changed the corn planting and harvesting acres, led to an internal review. Now, whatever the reason, I'm just asking, man, is that, from your perspective, if you're advising someone, I mean, does that change? Is there any alternatives to USDA? Will it ever change? And how do you then, if not, hedge market your crops with uncertain numbers as bad as they are? I guess is how I'm going to ask you that.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's like Andy saying, he would swear that the USDA numbers in rice are just in the rice balance sheet are off considerably based on his years of experience and the relationships he has with, several of the bigger the players in my, and his numbers just don't add up or jive. And I think you guys ass kicked pretty good being long some rice, a sizable amount of rice this past year. So, like I said, I know he has some discrepancies. I know a lot of my other long-time trading friends who've been in business for, like I said, 30-plus years, they're saying the same thing. And we've heard from some former USDA folks off the record that they were just like, I think it's been tough. They got younger people and people that maybe have not spent as much time in the field, and maybe, I don't know. I don't know. Like I said, I respect the hell out of the USDA, and like I said, I've just been never one, like my dad and my grandpa taught, when I played sports my whole life, I was just never allowed to bitch about the officiating. Well, I tell you, if I'd bitch about the officiating, I'd get back in and have my ass whooped, and my dad and my grandpa would just be like, that's out of your control, and you just don't. That's something we didn't do. They would always point out the mistakes that I had made, or I could have played harder, or could have done things different. And and I look back, and they were probably right. And I raised my kids the same way. So I've just never been one to bitch about the officiating. And I look at the USDA as kind of the officiating, and what numbers they come out with is what we trade. Sit here all day and argue, No,
I mean, it's all you can do, right? It's all you can do. It's tough.
Yeah. So, I think, like you said, is it Lance Honing still there, and some of those guys, they've always been super nice to me and my family and our business. And like I said, I respect the hell out of them. So I don't have anything bad to say. I think there are a lot of people that are disgruntled, and kind of really scratching their head like, what the hell on some of these numbers. But, I don't know. I don't have all the puzzle pieces. I'm not seeing all the puzzle pieces. I think it'd be one hell of a difficult job. I think there's a lot of moving parts and pieces. And like I said, like you said, I think a ton of ton of people have been let go or fired because of the new mission. So I don't know how all that's playing out.
Right.
And I've never been one, like I said, I leave the officiating to the officials, and I don't know. I hear a lot of people gripe and complain about it, and I don't know.
Well, and my perspective wasn't to bring it up to dog anybody as much as, hey man, this is the reality of what we got. We know these are the officials, as you like to call them, and they're making the calls, and you have to do it. But I will say the flip side of the coin, just from experience, if most people had a written marketing plan and risk managed properly, they'd be ahead of the curve on some of these bad numbers anyway. So.
Well, yeah, it was like the corn market with the feed and residual number. I'm sitting here looking for them to drop feed and residual 4 to 500, and not only did they not drop it, and leave it unchanged, shit, they raised it. I was completely wrong, and I'm just still scratching my head like, how in the hell do we have record low cattle numbers? We've had some hiccups in the bird, in the poultry situation with bird flu. The hog herd hasn't expanded. I'm just like, I don't know. I'm just scratching my head. How the hell do we move feed and residual higher? So that number will probably, there's a lot of that in every market. So we can talk about that across the board. But, yeah, I don't know how they're going to play it out at the USDA. Like I said, I'm going to just kind of watch and see how things go. But, yeah, like you said, I'm taking advantage if they make, and I think some mistakes are made to the good side, just as some mistakes are probably made to the bad side. And in the end, they probably get things washed out, dusted out. But, yeah, so it is what it is.
It is what it is. Moving on let's move into the stock markets. I'll be very careful to keep my stocks and my economy conversations separate. But in our conversation today, I want you to give your thoughts on the equity position changes, anything you're looking at new, and all that kind of stuff. But we're going to obviously touch on AI only because of the big sell-off in SAS and in software last week and stuff. And that's going to lead into Carter's article today, which was awesome, and I want to talk about that. So I'm not sure how it's going to go, but let's start with you telling us, have you done anything since we spoke last, and any major shifts?
Yeah. Have given back a lot of profits. Let's put it that way. No, I tell you what, it's like damn near. I'm being serious. I mean, I would say a lot of the stocks and a lot of the positions I'm in the market are really the ones that have really backpedaled quite a bit, to say the least. Microsoft. Well, my biggest position is Eli Lilly. As far as the individual stock goes, it's been good. I'm going to add to Lilly on any pullbacks probably from here. Microsoft. I added some on pullbacks, and it's one of my larger positions. But boy, it's taken on the chin. And as well, I actually reduced my position in NVIDIA today a little bit, just because I think they're going to come after it here over the next week, 2 weeks. So I think what's happening is everything is changing so quickly and so fast from a technological standpoint. Every day I wake up, they're trying to say one of the incumbents is going to be knocked off because somebody came out with something new overnight. So somebody in China came out with something new, and that's going to knock off NVIDIA, or that's going to knock off Microsoft, or that, and every day we're getting one of these new headlines about somebody's invented or created something new with AI that is going to knock off one of the incumbents. And, maybe, but I do know this, most of my life, or most of my professional trading career, I tried not to listen to the noise and listen to the music. And to me, the music is money flow, and where is it flowing? And so you got to pause, and you got to respect money flow. And it has certainly been flowing out of some of the bigger tech names and into other areas. And in the other areas where I've had some success and luck in making a little bit of profits is trying to focus on where are these big tech companies spending their money. That's not what I talk about. So the XLI has been it's my biggest position overall in all of my equity position. And that's probably been one of my better plays. And that's just your industrial stocks. That's like I said before, it's your Caterpillar, your John Deere. People are going to move some dirt, build some buildings, provide energy as far as running the lines, running the electrical, running the things. So the XLI I like. I still like the industrials. I think they're going to go gold. Gold's still one of my, decent sized positions, one of my bigger positions. So, nothing substantial. I'm sitting here watching a ton of profits dissipate just as the money flow really rotates and moves around. I've added to a few things here. Like I said, I added some Microsoft, added to some Eli Lilly, nothing major. I'm just kind of sitting. And like I said, just sitting and we are having a pullback, pretty good pullback, but I really haven't done much. I'm not in a hurry to buy right here. I don't think the pullback's been substantial enough for any of my positions anyway.
This is one of those times then when all that stuff we publish about not doing anything is doing something, and patience is where you're making money and you're sitting on your hands. It's a good thing. This is one of those times.
Yeah, one of my bigger winners that had this, and that was, I told you, one of my biggest when we were at FarmCon, I had added and loaded up on was Carrier Global, and hell, I think I'm up 25% or 20-some% in it just this year. So it's had a nice pop, like I said, and that's just Carrier, just the big AC heating and AC company, but they own tons of different brands. And like I said, I think you're going to have quite a bit of heating and cooling particularly cooling, obviously, in these data centers or everything else they're going to try and build, whether it's to manufacture robots or whatever it may be. So that's what I'm saying. You just try and I like to be a buyer of big tech on the bigger pullbacks. I'm not sure we've seen enough of a pullback yet to get me super excited, because what I'm worried about is we've seen this big pullback in tech, but the market really hasn't moved that much, right, Todd? So the market's kind of still up within 5% of its all-time high.
Right.
Well, what if the market really takes a break? I mean, what if the market, drops 10, 15, 20%? Oh, shit, they could annihilate some of these. I mean, some of these big tech stocks could really get hammered. And so that's where I'm saying I'm not putting a ton of money to work just yet. I mean, that's from the sideline. I'm still sitting about 35% cash, and just where I've been, probably underinvested on the way up, and I'm just going to sit here and be patient right now.
So you're not sure of the soft landing that people are starting to espouse is necessarily there we may have a shakeup here in the next 4, 5, 6 months.
So you're gonna go back and talk the economy and the
stock. Crap. Sorry.
No, I hear what you're saying. You're talking the economy, making a soft landing. Sure, it might.
Sorry.
I'm watching money though. I just pay attention to money flow, and money flow is rotating around and moving pretty good. If you were to get a midterm election pullback, and typically midterm election years are a tough year. There's typically a good sized break in a midterm election year pre November. So, maybe you get rocky road in July, August, September. Yeah, I told you I was selling June calls out there. I sold quite a few June S&P calls and bought puts. And like I said, I don't know. Maybe there's something that happens out there in that August, September, October area. It makes me a little bit nervous when we get out in that area. So I don't know. That's where I'm sitting. I think the economy does look pretty strong. Looks decent. I think jobs are obviously the big question, how it's going to play out. I think we're seeing a nice pullback in inflation, or a decent sized continuing move downward in inflation. So that's good. And I think maybe the Fed's going to cut again, maybe,
Well, I'm going to ask you a little more questions on those. I want to go back just because I know I might be retarded, and every week we get tripped up. But tell me this: I raise those questions because in my mind, if we do get a recession, the stock market has to drop. And you're saying no, that's not always the case. That's where
I mean, I don't know. I mean, the stock market probably pull back before we get to a recession, right? I mean, sometimes
that's true. That's
rallying. Sometimes the stock market had pulled back way before a recession. That thing's, and we're rallying right into the teeth of the recession. So, again,
no, you're right. You're right.
So you don't, that can be, or you could do it the other way. You could have the recession, everything lag, and then all of a sudden you buckle as we're coming back out of the recession. So again, you don't know how really money flow is going to circulate. I mean, it's just like we talked about, like Bitcoin. I mean, everyone said Bitcoin, was going to react like gold, and it was the new digital gold. And that's shit. Yeah. Gold's gone straight up. Bitcoin's, just gone straight down in the last year, basically almost the last year. And there's definitely a big divergence. But I said to you, because you were talking to me about Bitcoin, and, we've had our smallest position we ever had in Bitcoin in the last, I don't know how many years, but we just said we were worried that poly market, the betting markets, all the states that are legalizing gambling and betting, all the interest in gold and so. I mean, I think a lot of that in the meme stock, I think a lot of that has taken some of the buy side interest out of Bitcoin or the crypto space, and and it's dissipated and gone to other areas in other ways, and so that's why I think Bitcoin I think it'd go back down to 40. I mean, 40. Our numbers are. We're looking to buy a little bit if we can get into that 42 to 46 range on Bitcoin. I think you can get down there. I think we're trading 67 something today. But I think it can continue to drip lower, and then maybe go back to hibernation mode a little, and maybe you get a pop. But at the same time, I almost feel like the majority of the whole crypto space will eventually just go away. I mean, I think it's going to disappear. So,
yeah, I don't disagree on that at all. Before we get into some economic stuff, we ran that tweet from Michael Batnick, who's been at FarmCon before, and you were trading during the dot-com bust and stuff, and he sat there and he just showed how things have blown up and, the last few sessions. I mean, what do you draw the same comparisons he does and see it, and does that give you any sense of what's coming next, I guess is what I want to ask.
I see zero. I mean, I don't see zero comparisons, but I don't feel like this is any type of .com era. I mean,
yeah,
that's my opinion. Now, yes, I don't know if he traded through or didn't. He's part of Josh Brown's group, right?
Yeah.
The guys up in New York. But, no, I feel like during that .com era, and this is where I say in a lot of major – when you've seen markets collapse and just get annihilated, like we saw at the .com, or we saw in the 08 Great Recession, or we saw in, say, back in the 1929, 1930 with the Great Depression, speculating was fueled by massive leveraging. People were borrowing tons and tons of money to speculate. Unless I'm out of tune right now or I'm out of sync, I don't feel that's the case. Right. I feel like the people that have a shitload of money and have tons of money, maybe let's call it the boomers, they're controlling all the money right now, right? I don't feel like they're definitely not out leveraging up to buy anything. I think they think all this shit's overpriced. I think they think, the housing market's steep. I think they think gold and silver is steep. I think they think hot rods and cars are expensive. I think they think a lot of things are expensive, farm ground. And I don't think they're levering up and borrowing money to chase and fuel it higher. And that's what creates bubbles, and that's when things get nuts. Now, that's what I'm trying to say. And I don't feel like even, yes, I feel like the millennials and the Zs are leveraged. Just meaning, I think they got some decent credit card debt. I think they got a lot of school debt. I think they're strapped with some debt. But I don't know if it's necessarily debt that they created to lever into investing. Does that make sense? You know what I'm saying? I don't think your daughter went out there and she borrowed $200,000 to go get long Bitcoin. I don't think. I mean,
no, I will tell you. Part of my learning curve, Kevin, and it seemed to me, and I was unaware of this, how ignorant I was when I was getting early with Bitcoin and silver and this and that, but those big swings up and down, that was because of over-leveraged, correct? People just getting wiped out margins because they were over-leveraged.
Well,
but I don't have the idea of the numbers, the massive quantity you're talking about, because I will agree, I don't see that, I don't think it's that way, but so there's a lot of room to run. I mean,
I think there's still a ton of room to run. I mean, I feel if you want to compare this to, let's just say, if you want to say this is 99 2000, and I'm going to say we're 95 then.
And you've said that before. He was just commenting on that he hadn't seen these bounces this large up and down. These I
think there's the air pockets, let's call it, because there's a lot of fluffy money in there. Like, never before, though, have you had so many people, like I said a few weeks ago, I think Charles Schwab, I think the majority of their accounts are now under the age of 40 or something, which is nuts. I mean, and you got everybody that has an app and they can trade from their phone all across the world, not just here in the U.S. And, I think it's become like we said, the degenerative economy. It's all the marijuana, gambling, casinos, And so I think there's a lot of fluffy money, just meaning a lot of people in there, and I'm not saying they borrowed money to trade, but they're just in there trading. And, I think they're getting nicked up and dinged up, and, it is what it is. And that where there's volatility, there's opportunity, right? And so I like the volatility, but I also don't lever up and lose my mind to get way out over the tips of my skis in too big of positions, at least not in the last 20 years. So, like I said, I'm trying to
So you wrote
somewhat longer here and see how things play out. Could we, and I've told you this before, markets don't collapse when they're overbought. They collapse when they're oversold. So I am worried that you have seen some money flowing out of the ETFs, and you have seen money flowing out of some of the mutual funds, and you have seen an outflow of money. And if you start to see more of that, it becomes really worrisome, because then that's when you get like a run on a, it's like a run on a bank, but this would be a run on the stock market. And then I don't think that's the case. I think what you're seeing is just still a ton of money just circulating like a whirlwind. And, where's it going to go next? And then it'll recirculate back. And so that's where I'm saying I'm staying fairly patient. I'd like to add and be a buyer of some of the bigger blue chip tech names on bigger sizable pullbacks. Like I said, I don't know if we've seen those pullbacks yet. I haven't really added too much. I'm just still kind of sitting here watching, and I've been giving back some profits. So, it is what it is, but market's got to breathe, and it's probably going to take some deeper breaths even as we're into a midterm election year. I think, there is a lot of division, and it's going to be a volatile midterm election year. I think there's going to be, some crazy wild headlines. So I would expect more volatility, and I just think that's how it's going to be. And with more volatility, you just got to back down the size. I mean, you just can't trade as big. You can't have as big of positions, and you just got to bring it back, reel it in a little. So, that's my thought on that whole side of it.
God, that's no fun, Kevin. That's not exciting. No, I'm with you, brother. I mean, I'm with you. But number of people
I did trade this weekend. Guy that I've known for a long time. He's about 80, but he's liquidating some of his collection. So I did trade a decent amount of silver, physical silver, for some Indian artifacts and
nice.
Some things of that nature. Yeah, hell, who knows? I don't know. Maybe I'm nuts. Maybe I'm not. But these are some great Indian pieces, and you can't. It's just so tough, like I told you, to find
authentic.
Yeah, authentic Indian stuff. You really got to trust who you're getting it from. You got to have some great paperwork on it, and you really got to know what the hell you're doing. I mean, you got to know the difference between what old buffalo hide feels like versus some new deer buckskin. They'll try and pull some shit over on on people all the time, and it's interesting. But I think there's going to be a big play. Maybe not. I'll say a big play, but I like that space. I like the Western, the cowboy and Indian space. I think that the good stuff is getting really tight and hard to get, and I think you're going to see a big a push in the collector's market as we move that way. So I have been trying, when I find something or I come across something that's unusual, has a good background history to it, it has things, I've been doing well there. Did you see what happened in the Pokemon space, Todd? That's been my best investment. Let's talk. I mean, you want to talk silly? I mean, yeah, for sure. That's been my best investment over the last 5 years. The Pokemon cards. I saw, what was it, that Logan Paul guy? What did it go for? $16 million.
It's a stupid number, yeah.
It's a stupid number. And one of those. So I don't have tons, but I have a few. I have a few Charizard first edition tins, and that one almost went for $1 million last night or on Sunday. It went for like 900 and some time. I'm like, holy shit! I mean, it's just crazy what's happened in that whole space, in that whole collector space. I mean, it's not just that. It's just from baseball cards to football cards. I mean, the whole collector market has just, really gone nuts. And, I don't know. I don't know if that's bubbly. I used to want to say it was, but hell, the shit keeps staying strong.
Well, that's what I want to ask Kevin, because I'm not familiar at all with the Pokemon card from an actual investment standpoint, but I do remember Beanie Babies, and we got a bunch of them still downstairs. But my question to you is that you've been in it long enough? I mean, is that thing, that's not going away, right? The Pokemon card business. I mean, that's like the good baseball cards.
I say no, because I had, we play poker every Friday night, and I had there was a younger kid at the table last week. He was 30, and one of the guys said, "Hey, Trump, I heard you hit a good lick on selling another couple of them Pokemon." And I had a couple Pokemon cards, and the kid pops up and he says, "Oh, you know about Pokemon cards?" He didn't think I knew shit about Pokemon cards because I'm old. And he said, I said, "Yeah." And he says, "Oh man, we've been doing good. My son and I, we go to these conferences and we go to trade card shows, and yeah, we're all into it. We do this and that." And I said, "Oh, that's great. That's good." And he's like, "Yeah, we have a lot of fun." So, my whole thing with collecting is when those kids that are doing that, when they turn 50 and they get disposable income that they can do some crazy shit with. A lot of people like to go back and buy things that were nostalgic, just like go out and buy a Smokey and Bandit Trans Am. We just want to buy those cool things. Or, you want to buy General Lee from the Dukes of Hazzard or something like that. Well, nowadays kids don't care about cars. It used to matter. You wanted to show up to the party in a cool car. Well, nobody gives a shit about cars now. These younger kids, they all just show up in some like Kia Uber, and nobody cares what they're in anyway. So there's really not, you know what I'm saying, Todd? They don't. I'm a seller of collector cars now of our age.
Right.
The things that were popular for you and I loved them, and I still we got an old Bronco sitting in the barn. We got, I have some other collector, but I need to get rid of those. I need to sell those now before our generation starts to not be spenders. Does that make sense?
Well, it does, because we're sitting on a 64.5 former Indy pace car Mustang that our parents had, and I'm like, same thing, man. I don't
probably already missed your window, because my mom owned a 69 Mustang back in the day. That was one of her first. My dad had a cool, or he had a Corvette when he was a kid. He had tried to save his money by, so. But you probably missed your window a little bit on that 64 Mustang.
I bet.
Just because, think about it, who's going to be the buyer of that? It would probably be someone close to my dad's age. It'd be like 75 to 80. That was probably in their that was one of their favorite cars or something when they were younger, or somewhere in there. But those people aren't really wanting to spend any money, right now. Yeah,
no.
They're past a little bit. Now, my dad was still nuts when he was 80, buying motorcycles and shit like that. But I just, for the most part, think about it, they're probably not. So who's really doing a lot of collector buying right now? Well, it's us, people that are age 50 to, we'll call it 50 to 60, because you're at the peak of your earnings. Your kids are kind of out of college, the other thing. So you're buying some of that nostalgic stuff and the things you like. That's why you've seen those, like I said, that's why you saw the Trans Am pop like it did. The prices just went nuts. I would say they probably peaked. I remember when, Michelle, at one time, my uncle had a split window vet, and those things went nuts in price. And I think, my personal opinion, they probably peaked. There's a few that are the top end ones. Now, they may have not, but for the most part, you're going to have a tough time finding the buyers with the expendable money, is all I'm telling you. And so you look for what will be popular next. And I don't know. You got to ask yourself, so my kids that are right now 30 to 40 years old, what did they like and love when they were, kids? And then that's probably, what's going to be popping. And that's where I said, so for my kids, they were into Pokemon cards, Digimon cards. And I said to myself, I'm going to buy the shit out of these things. And so when these kids turn a little older, I think they're going to be worth quite a bit of money. And that happened to be a great play. And that was a good win for us. So, and now I'm trying to build inventory, like I told you, in the Indian and the Western space. Just from a rarity perspective, there's just not much available. And I do believe we are seeing more of a divide in our country, meaning you have the really patriotic that really want to, I guess, keep our traditions alive and keep all the things that America was about somewhat alive. And then you have the opposite side. Well, I'm just kind of catering to those people. The people that really are into the Americana and that type of thing. And that's where I think there could be some potential to capture some decent returns. So.
Well, you're proving it for sure.
Yeah.
Let's jump into just real quickly the macro area in regards to the labor market. They had, speaking of revised numbers from the government, labor market threw some at us from revised 2025 numbers. Question was, and you put this in the report, did AI play a part? We don't know, but do you think AI played a part in the down revision? And how would you know? And does it even matter? What do you see? What are we seeing go farther down the road? Is how bad this disruption is going to be from an employee standpoint, labor numbers?
Hey, I did want to back up one thing, because I did have a guy write into me and ask me about buying old tractors and stuff like that, what I thought longer term. And all I would say is this, and I always look at it as a market. Are you going to have more buyers or sellers? Okay. And if you're going to have more sellers, the prices are probably going to go down on something. If you're going to have more buyers, the prices are going to go up, all right? So that's all we were saying with the Pokemon cards. I felt like once the kids had more money, since they wanted to be buyers when they were 10 years old, but they didn't have any money, they're going to get one pack of cards, right? They didn't get one pack.
Yeah.
But now when they're going to be 50, they're going to have a lot more money in their pocket, and they're going to go out and buy a whole box of these damn things, or whatever it may be. So you sit in your head and you say, I'm a buyer of old – when Jordan and I got into this one, we were buying old collector tractors, and we thought, man, this may be some. And then I thought, I started rethinking more, and I'm like, I don't want to get down this rabbit hole because I think your buyer pool is shrinking pretty dramatically, meaning the old guys love to work on tractors. It really meant a lot to them. They worked on the tractors with their dads and their grandpas like I did, and it had some meaning and it had some value. Today, that's not as much the case. And I worry that as we lose our number of farms, so our farms are consolidating, you're going to have fewer farms. I think you're going to have fewer buyers than you have sellers of some of the older farm equipment. So I'm hesitant. Like I said, now your blue chip pieces that are really rare and really are marquee, they could continue to appreciate in value because you only have one or two items and you have several buyers chasing it. You see what I'm saying? So your marquee items could continue. You're just middle of the road items, which would have been things I would be buying. I don't think so. I think there's going to be plenty of supply. There'll probably more supply than there are buyers. If you forward 20 years from now, that's where I'm saying I'd be more of a seller of those type of things because you're just trying to play it out psychologically and socially. Are the kids today spending a bunch of time, and there are a ton of kids working on tractors and equipment with their dad and their grandpa? I don't think so. Not in comparison to what there were, 50 years ago, 40 years ago. So I'm thinking you got a smaller pool of buyers and more supply. I just wanted to touch on that for a moment. No matter what you're looking at from that collector standpoint, that's you got to look at it like it's a real market and really try to think of supply. And that's what you saw, Todd. You've seen it in the antique space. You saw that the old you've seen a lot of how antique cycle.
Getting crushed. Yeah.
Oh, some of those antiques gotten crushed compared to what people were buying 20 years ago, right?
Yeah, primitives are gone. Primitives
are not, and that used to be like gold. And
it used to be mid-century modern made a move while we were there.
Yeah, you can't give it away now hardly, and that's what's interesting. And think about this: all that mid-century crap that we used to just throw out at garage sales and give to Goodwill when you and I were younger. Well, that shit's like gold now to these kids. They're paying huge premium for it.
Yes,
so
sir.
That's what I'm trying to say. And that's how you got to get ahead of that. You got to be thinking like that. Where are they going to be more buyers? And what's going to be on the supply side? And how's that going to play out? And what are they going to be chasing? So I just wanted to touch on that. Because we do have a lot of people, I think, that are into collectibles and into other type of alternative investments, and it's just a mindset thing of trying to figure it out like you do any type of trade or stock or a market, and it's the same thing. It's just they're collectibles. So
it'd be fair to say then for the older folks who are into the collectibles of their area, I mean, they may have to sit there and face the music like, hey man, there ain't going to be a market for this, like you said to me, and maybe get rid of it now, or if it's just that sentimental to them, then it don't matter, I guess, right?
Well, right. And that's what I always love about the collectibles. It's like I like to, I'm just kind of a collector person, and I like to have it, touch it, feel it, look at it, fiddle around with it. And I always think, hey, it brings a smile to my face. And in 5, 10, 20 years from now, if I'm able to clip a little bit of money and it brought a smile to people and it created a conversation and said, hey, it's all worth it, right? We made a little money. I'll tell you what, I don't know if I've had any collectibles kick me in the ass as hard as cash has.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Like, I mean, gosh damn, most all my collectibles, even if they haven't gone up tremendously,
haven't dropped 90%.
Most of them keep pace with inflation. You see what I'm saying? I mean, typically they keep
pace.
That's
a good point, man. That's actually a really interesting point.
To
ship some money. I mean, how much? I mean, you got maybe 10, 15% in that, if you'd call those investments in that space, or more than that?
Oh, no, I'm probably retarded. I just hate to use that.
You are retarded.
I shouldn't say that word. I just say I'm a dummy. Probably I probably have more than that. Just because I love stuff with a story or history, and I just love that stuff. And that's probably where I'm probably a sucker on a lot of things. And I'll tell you what, kids will have one hell of an estate sale or one hell of an auction when I'm gone. I'll probably bet that. Sell it all off, all the things that and they probably should be, like you said, they probably sell it now instead of later.
That's funny. No, good addition right there. Real quick on just some macroeconomic stuff. The Labor Department made some big adjustments and stuff like that, and the question is, we kind of back question, hey man, was that AI come into play? We didn't know when they made the revisions, and what do we see? I mean, because every day it's the new. I mean, the theories are changing on how bad it's going to disrupt, who's going to disrupt this and that. But just touch real quick on the number of revisions, if that means anything to you, and then did AI play a part in it, and does it even matter at this point?
Yeah, again, the revisions, I look at that as same as officiating. Bitch, not bitch. Did we have pass interference? Did we not? I don't know. And I'm with everyone else on the AI. I think initially there's going to be jobs taken away. I don't see how there isn't. But I don't know. I mean, that gets into your whole debate, like you and I were talking. You were talking about AI on the farm, and go into some of that you're talking about there.
So one of the things that I saw, and once again, I want to tell people, I bring up these things that interest me that I think will interest others, and then sometimes Kevin and I haven't talked about them, but recently Mark Cuban was talking about AI integration, what the future is going to look like, and I'm starting to believe, this is starting to formulate in my mind that AI is just a tool, but no one knows how to use it. Don't just got to learn the tool and how it works, the difference between them. Okay, how do I go into a business and show that business, that to implement these things, you're going to get a competitive advantage. And Mark Cuban simply went back to his days when he was a young man and was selling computers and going to these businesses and showing guys, and they're like, dude, I got a secretary for this, I got an accountant for that, I don't need this. And he, but if he got the time to sit down and show him how the computer would give him a competitive advantage, it was an easy sell. So he's talking about all the kids now in high school and college need to be what he calls, these AI integrators, meaning, dude, sure, learn the systems, but then go learn the business and how you can go into a shoe store that sells retail and online and say, hey, I can show you how to da-da-da. Because there's 33 million small and medium-sized businesses in America, and he says, 30 million of them have no AI budget and have no AI person on their staff. So there's going to be a huge market for folks to go and do that. Now you take that over to the farmland, and basically for those who are at FarmCon and listen to Paul Windemiller talk, I mean, Paul is his own integrator. And there's going to be a ton of jobs for folks, for young kids, for, the agronomists and stuff to go get the drones and go out to a farm and show a guy, hey man, give me your yield maps, give me your soil maps, give me a couple other things, and I can sit there and just from my AI Claude Run program or Claude Run prompts show you how to save money. So this is where I'm kind of looking so I can fully understand and have intelligent conversations with our people that you really need to be looking at this as adding this person to your team, whether it's outsourced or in-house, to get how to apply it and how to make it work. Because Kevin, you and I used to talk when the word data came up. It meant so many things to so many people. What data? How to use this and that. But I do believe now that in agriculture is the worst. It was the worst to their last to the game being an analog system. Hell, there's still a lot of them. But now, even with cloud-based stuff, they're all siloed. There's no platform where you can go do all this stuff. Companies are making these things, but still, even if you can put them all in one place, you still got then you got to have the AI to make it work. So I believe farmers, since that's who we're talking to, really need to understand. You don't have to learn, the techniques, but you have to know it's a tool that works just like any other tool you got. But you better find somebody that knows how to use it. And there's real money to be made, is what I'm learning, and I hope to learn some more on that. So
maybe.
I understand. That'll be our debate.
I just don't agree with you on all that shit, but
I understand.
I'm not saying I don't. I'm not so sure all of that's always correct. Meaning,
well, obviously not all of it is, but I'm learning. I'm trying to get the parts.
Well, I'm just saying, if you're farming and it's your business, or if you're doing hats like Jordan and you're over here at Ag Swag, or you're at my business. I mean, everybody always want me to get data, collect data, do this with data, do that with data. How's that going to help you do it? And I said, I'll keep knitting the sweater I'm knitting as long as my bank account keeps going the same way it's going. So if my bank account's getting bigger and bigger and bigger every month, well, I'm going to keep doing the same shit I'm doing. and I'm going to keep knitting the same sweater I'm knitting. And I'm going to tell you now, I ain't going to take and spend a bunch of time analyzing my data. Now, if you're going to tell me, if I start to see a pullback or start to see things change, now then maybe I need to look at some things.
Okay, so, buddy, if we're just going to talk corn and soybean farmers strictly in the commodity space, you got to believe that there's a number of them who we all know aren't running things like a business, just like I didn't with the golf shop, that if
bank account gets bigger and their bank account your bank account wasn't getting bigger.
No, but theirs aren't either. I mean, at least that's what we hear, but everybody.
Oh, no. I think there are tons of guys who are doing just fine sitting on a ton of cash, and they're making a good clip, and they ain't doing any data diving or combining all their data and having an AI agent come out to their farm or integrator or whatever the hell you're talking. I don't believe that shit. And that's all I'm saying. And yeah, I remember Mickey Mantle sitting there smoking cigs and going out and getting drunk off his ass every night and still, hitting 500 bombs. So I'm just saying he wasn't using the latest pitch count machine and then analyzing data and all this crazy number nonsense. I listen to this from a lot of investors. I should say people that I should say this, not investors, people that are wanting my money and wanting me to invest in their companies. And they tell me everybody's going to do all this. It's no different than Carter at Iceleg telling me we all need to eat nuts and berries and eat all this certain types of foods. Well, okay, that's great in theory, and you may be perfectly right, but that doesn't mean that's going to happen. That you see what I'm saying? That doesn't mean that.
No, I do, and we're going to have this AI whole topic and debates for.
But how many years have I sat here and listened to everyone tell us all the importance of this data on front and all this with data and all this with it? Look, who gives a shit if it doesn't make you more money? Is my whole thing. Is it just to make you feel smarter, or is it just to make you feel good, or is it just to make you be able to go and tell your neighbors, I'm a genius over here with my data? I'm not in any business to be a data guru. I'm in any business to make money and to help people. And I don't see where just people just ramming that down people's throat. I just don't see it. I think it can be good for some people, and I think some people are into that. Some people are into geeking out on the numbers and all the data. That's fine. Then go do that. But I just don't know if that we're hitting here saying, oh, you're going to have to do this, and your farm's going to have this, and you're going to have these AI. I don't necessarily agree with that.
Well, and that's probably the wrong way. I mean, we've seen that across the new technology. It's probably the wrong way to phrase it, but it's interesting. I want to confirm what I'm reading across people. I mean, like I said, people like Paul Windemiller, first-gen dude, first-gen guy, first-gen farmer. Then he goes and gets into the dairy business.
So is Paul making more money than someone else, though? I mean, ultimately, the goal is to make the most amount of money you can make in X number of hours, doing the best you can, and not screwing people around or hurting other people. So I'm just saying, I don't know if his data crunching and all that necessarily equals.
Well, here's the funny thing, though. You're not okay, but the funny thing is, at least, and maybe this is parsing nips with you, you're not doing. I mean, dude, once you set up the sensors in place and you got the AI in place, it's self-automated. It's running itself. I mean, you're not crunching data like you ain't wasting time doing it. It's doing it for you, and it's happening. It's making on real time.
That's what you're telling me. That's what you tell me. But are you doing it? Is your bank account getting bigger doing it? I don't see people doing it. People want to tell me.
I hear you, and you make great points.
These people that are coming out with these new companies wanting me to give them money to take this to the farmer, I feel like they're hoodwinking the farmer. They're kind of blowing some smoke, and they got a lot of bells and whistles. But at the end of the day, my money and their experience is soon going to become my experience and their money. And the same's going to happen to my farmer friends who are going to give them their money and in return think they're getting something back that's going to help them and their family make more money, and it isn't. And that's all I'm saying. So I'm hesitant.
So let me ask you this, and then we'll move on. If the guy came out, if you were a farmer and I came out to your farm and with my little laptop and I asked you for 5 data points and in 30 minutes I could show you how to save 30% next year, and it turned out to be true, would that move you off your current stand?
And it turned out to be true?
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously you wouldn't know till you went and took my prescription from my.
Be very leery to take your even advice.
Right. No, I get that part. I get that part, but we have to simple.
I would want to ask you, where have you done this at before? Show me. I want to see it. I want to touch it and feel it.
Yeah.
And I want to know where you're knocking this expense out at. I mean, I don't know. That's what I'm trying to say. It's
fair enough.
You know, we talk about that with Jordan and Kennedy with their business as well, you know, and I said, yes, I think AI could offer some help by, say, the AI agents being able to communicate and talk with his wholesalers or distributors and eliminate some friction or something. But the bottom line is this, and this is what I keep saying to the kids, the bottom line is this. You got to put a smile on people's face. I mean, you've got to under promise and over deliver. You've got to still make people happy, and you got people, you know, you've got to provide hospitality, and you've got all of those things that we need as humans. I think are just critically important, and that's where I'm hearing all these people as of late flooding us with all that they're going to do with AI to help the farm and the farm family. But I'm sitting here at the end of the day, I'm not so sure about that. I'm just not so sure about it, because the money we're going to exchange for that, and the time and the learning curve, and I don't know if I want to be the first one through the door, and I'm not sure I want to be the fifth one through the door. Like I said, first guy through the door always gets shit beat out of him, and right down the line. So I'm taking a patient approach to the AI on the farm. I'm going to see how some things play out, and like I said, I think you can spend a lot of money and a lot of time on a learning curve, and things change quicker and quicker and quicker, and then you're behind the curve. So I'm paused on the AI front for the most part on some of that investment.
All right. And I want to touch now on that Wall Street Journal article that I know you got a ton of forwards from about the farming legacy and or lack of it, and various things there, and you made some comments on it. You touched on the 3 generation thing that I touched on last week, but obviously I want to make sure I didn't misunderstand something, because I mean, you said, you know, mostly family businesses don't last over 3 generations, which is what I thought I was trying to say last week.
Yeah, 3 generations. It's tough to get much beyond 3. And there are, and there's some great ones. And if you can make it past 3, I mean, wow, what a great look at Cargill, right? What an amazing business they built, you know. So and that's what I say, and it makes a lot of sense. Again, back to the human psychology standpoint, Todd, if your grandpa created a business, right, and you were little and you went around with your grandpa and you went with him to the bed and you listened to him tell you the stories and saw his passion and everything, and then your dad who lived with him, right, and your dad had no money, and he saw his dad build this business up, and you know, your dad would probably take it over and move it forward, and you're still going to have, at that 3rd generation, Todd, you're still going to have some love and some passion, probably, for that business, and you probably can hang in there. But much beyond you, Todd, you know, it would be hard for your kids to see the same, because your dad would be more successful, have a lot more things, and just the sacrifices wouldn't be as big and bold. So that's all I'm saying. And that's where it just comes in. And I think a lot of farm families need to recognize that. Like, you know, it is sad that you have to sell and to see it go, because so many great family memories were made, friends and family and kids born there and play there and everything else. That's why it makes it tough to sell. But in the same breath, we got to know. I mean, you know, past 3 or 4 generations, it gets really tough to keep the kids, I guess, tied to that emotionally, psychologically. So, you know, to watch them go off and become doctors and lawyers, or to do whatever they may do, have a painting business, have a roofing business, whatever. Maybe just work for someone local in town. That's fine. I mean, I think all of those things are fine. And you know, I never expected the kids to follow in my footsteps. Never really wanted them to. I wanted them to have their own fashions, their own desire, and that's kind of what same with your daughter. You did the same. And, I think it's tough, though, right? I mean, I just think that's tough. And I think you're going to see more and more farms come up for sale just because you're getting out there now where you're getting some more 4, 5, 6 generations deep, and it might be tougher to keep those emotions high.
Well, and on that note, and just as an example of not having people to sell it to and what it may turn into, I mean, down in Texas, I got a buddy from used to be the second largest ag producing county in the state, and now it's basically all solar fields because all the old codgers down there didn't have anybody to turn it over to, took the buyout and retired. And I just wonder how much more of that is going to open up plays for, the solar, the wind, whatever, because why not? I mean, take the cash and then do whatever. So there'll be a lot of interesting things, but I didn't read the whole article, but I get the gist and stuff. And I think you're right. I'm sitting out here, interestingly enough, when I read that article, it was kind of interesting because Heidi's 4th generation. We lease out the acres, but we're on the farm.
You guys are the 4th generation on that farm?
She is 4th generation. But, no one actively farmed here for the last, her dad would come out. But anyway, so it is neat. But yes, there is so much nostalgia. I mean, the whole reason we would think about not moving and moving to a warmer place is just you get locked into the nostalgia of it. And so it's a different deal. So you're right. There's a lot of things there, but people got to change their mindset, I think, and not view it as a negative or bad thing. It's just an is thing. It's an is thing. It is what it is.
Well, I sit in my head, and if my grandpa still had his farm, and he wouldn't have sold, and everybody's. I mean, it would be mine. Or my sisters, maybe we'd have it combined. But there's no way in hell I'm selling it. I mean, I loved it. That was my whole life back then. But I don't think my kids would hesitate probably to sell it because they wouldn't have known shit about it. They wouldn't have known hardly anything.
And that's where we're at. Yeah.
So it's just, I think it's just going to be tough for people emotionally, and everybody's forced to sell it. Yeah, definitely an conundrum. So I think you're going to see. Unfortunately, we're going to see more sell-off and more consolidation.
We are.
It is what it is. But
that's
why. But I will say this: I think prices are going to stay strong, Todd, because
I agree for sure.
Like with our collectible story, what did I say? Are we going to have more buyers or more? I think you're going to have. I think we're having more buyers come into the pool, like you said, from alternative sources like solar, wind, and all these applications that they know they can use, data centers, AI, build this, build that. I think land has a ton of new buyers coming in, just as we have a lot of sellers from, the folks that are out here, the boomers and the older that are selling and don't have anyone to sell to. I don't think that the sellers are going to outnumber the buyers, at least not anytime real soon. So that's the same play again. You see what I'm saying?
Oh, 100%. And there's it's interesting because it's going to hold, and I'm with you. I'm sorry, I looked outside and I lost my train of thought. But yeah.
Oh, no, that's fine. We were just talking about the land prices. I'm saying
it's not going away. They're going to be any big.
Yeah. No massive. I don't think just collapse. I think we're just going to coast along here. So. You still
anything you had on your mind? You want? I'm through with what I want to throw.
What are you doing? Eating chickens now, or what the hell are you doing?
No, buddy, we got chickens. We're hoping to put we bought fence posts at an auction last year, so we're hoping to actually get a perimeter fence built for the future livestock operation.
Yeah, that'd be good. That'd be good.
So that's it. So no, cool. But
no, that's all I got. I think everything's great. We had a good turnout for those folks on the FarmCon signing up for next year. Early bird, we've had a good turnout.
Yeah, we did. Yes, we did.
Todd's been drumming up some good sponsors. I know we got a ton of great sponsors lined up for next year. And if anybody's interested, reach out to Todd. That's really all I got for this week, buddy. All
right, man. Well, we'll be in touch soon. Appreciate your time today, man.
All right. See you, buddy. Bye.
Bye. Thanks.